So I will put it here maybe, or I don't know where. So I thank you very much, Herman. And I want to say, I came with a tire, and probably that's not what you expected me to bring. Probably you expected me to bring kind of pictures maybe of melting ice caps, or of deforestation, or plastic in the oceans, or maybe the picture of the Sustainable Development Goals put on the building of the United Nations, something or very negative or something very positive. And here I come with a simple object. It's not even a car. It's only the tire. It's not even the wheel. But actually for me personally, and also in the work that we are doing with CSR Europe, we learn a lot from that tire. It's a kind of teacher in a way, because we have a lot of projects in the rubber business, in the tire business, in the automotive business, because there is a lot of things that come together. It's transport that helps us, but it's also emissions. It's also particles that come off from the tires, and I will talk about that later. It's also the work in the factories. It's the work on the plantations. It's the how do you get sustainable natural rubber is a very big topic. It's deforestation issues that come together. It's safety of the passenger, of the car driver, etc. It's the logistics of tire transport. So a lot of sustainability challenges come together in this simple object that is in a way, my teacher. I also have to mention, because you will see it on the slide, a second teacher is my previous job is Toyota. I come out from the car industry. I come from Toyota Motor Europe, and there I also learned some valuable lessons. And one lesson I want to share, in total 3 trends with you, is about bold direction. When I joined Toyota 20 years ago, they said, aim zero emission. And I thought, boah, that's very daring. That sounds a little bit like greenwashing maybe, or really, can you do? We are still not there. So how do you dare 20 years ago already to say aim zero emission? Well, it was about setting bold direction. It was the management who at that time had brought their first hybrid technology on the market, their first Prius to the market. They said, but that's the way we need to go. That's where we as a company need to put our efforts. And we'll try. We are a mass producer of cars. So with what we can do, how can we get there? That's where we are going to put our efforts. So it's a management act. It's setting purpose. And I have to be quick, because we think, and when we looked at the new commission, and I think Said will say more about that, but when we saw the new president embracing and saying in her first acts, it's about a Green Deal, that's also setting the bold direction. And that is very important for CEOs, and I come back, and for companies. Set that direction where you want to go. Not to say we are going to do it anyway. No, that's where we need to make the work every day again to get there. Setting bold direction is a kind of first element. And we see it, that's a kind of the new normal. And we saw last week, I think it was, the American CEOs saying on the business roundtable, we want to have business with purpose. Well, very good. We don't want only shareholder value, but we also want stakeholder value as well. So it's becoming a new normal. It's an expectation. But it's not enough to be at the stages in Davos or in New York, or not even here, or on climate conferences to say it. You have to do. You have to do it, I think what Herman was saying, practically every day. And we think, and I hope to believe, I'm a very pragmatic person coming from the car business, you become very pragmatic. It's about doing the things, and that is the DNA of CSR Europe, and that's also the DNA, I think, and that's why we are happy to have an organization like Forética here in Spain. It's about the practical work of doing it. I'm not going to go in depth in our mission and vision, but we believe, and I think it's becoming more and more shared, that sustainability is the driver for growth. There is where Europe can play its competitiveness, if we invest in that. Sustainability is not an add-on, it's a driver for growth. That's the big belief that is behind CSR Europe and its network. And that's why we launched, and your president already mentioned it earlier, we launched in May this call for action. The elections were to come. We were doing it. No, the elections were just 1 week gone, and we had asked CEOs please set a direction that you want to go also towards the new European Commission. And they made this call for action. And already in May or in June we had 100, now we are over 200, but we see still company CEOs coming in to endorse it. And I would indeed extend the invitation, and already a number of Spanish companies are there, extend the invitation, and we are going to do, and this is a sneak preview, I think you should call it, we will extend it even further. We are now over the 200, but since a lot of companies are still coming in, so Monday we will do a press release that we will extend it until mid-November. But better do it now than earlier. And basically what the CEOs are saying there, it's about we need to transform our business transformation. That is our agenda in the first place. But we need to do it with others. We need the trust-building dialogue with others. That's the second key element. And the third element is we cannot do alone. We need practical collaboration. And on those two last points, I want to elaborate a little bit more. But basically what we are saying here, you talked earlier about leadership. There are two elements. There is leadership and there is engagement. Only with those two elements we can get there, with leadership and engagement. And then I come back to my tire and the lessons I learned from my tire. And I'm not going to go in all these projects, but basically they are all collaborative projects. With Pirelli we did stakeholder dialogues about their industrial and sustainability strategy and their rubber policy, etc. We extended that to the sector that is now, and that created now the global platform on sustainable natural rubber. In the automotive sector, you see those brands, we are doing since many years practical work on their supply chain sustainability. In logistics, we are tackling the problem of social standards in truck logistics. We are starting with those companies that are there, but other companies still can join. The basis of all this is we start talking with companies and we start talking with stakeholders, but in a genuine way, not as look how good I am and look how bad you are. No, the genuine dialogue is a second key element that is on the basis of practical change that we can do. The time will not allow me to go deeper on that, but making collaborative platforms between companies on a very practical challenge. Start on truck logistics. The European Commission works on that and the European Parliament, and they cannot break through. And it's very difficult because of social laws, etc. But companies themselves can start doing, because it's in our logistics chains that there's a lot in Europe, exploitation, bad contracts, people living for 6 months on the road, living on the parking lots, etc. We can do, and we can set the example. And then we can, in dialogue with policymakers, say what kind of policy can improve their situation. And the same goes on STEM education or other projects that we are starting. So that is, and this element, why do I say dialogue is so important? Of course, coming from a Japanese company, it's this kind of, you go and talk to all the people who are involved and you listen what they want. And you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, they are the perfect common language to talk to all people because you share the direction. As human, you share that. So it's to find, by systematic doing this nemawashi process, what the Japanese call, go to all the stakeholders, bring them together, have an open dialogue, see how you can find solutions, is a key element to drive the sustainability agenda. And we think also in the work with the European Commission, the previous European Commission with Mr. Timmermans and Mr. Kaitanen, they brought together a multi-stakeholder platform of 30 organizations from Business Europe to BirdLife and all the social organizations, etc. In an 8-month I thought, this will be a talking club. No, it was not a talking club. They worked very hard to have a common understanding and to define together what is the future. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit fast, but what is the future direction? What is towards a sustainable Europe 2030? In the end, the Commission made that reflection paper, which we thought was a very important paper, and it was made by the genuine dialogue with those people there below. So a hands-off, ivory tower type of strategy and policy making, it's for business and for policymakers, will not advance the sustainability agenda. I don't know, I get a lot of requests of doing a survey, filling in a survey, or doing an interview for the materiality analysis of a company. Then they hire a consultant and he has to do an interview and then they make the material. It's too hands-off. You have to engage with stakeholders to better understand where diverging and sometimes opposing interest can be combined in a new consensus. You need to have the practical daily engagement. And we think what the Commission then did further and what we see and what was embraced, I think, and by the Council and by the Parliament, in this reflection paper, the strategic priorities, they are the right one for Europe. The horizontal enablers are the right one for Europe. So we need to make sure this stays embedded in the new Commission, and that's why the CEO call is important. It calls to take this agenda very serious and make it a core, and the element of a new Green Deal is an optimistic way. But then stays the third element I wanted to raise in this introduction is on the how. How do you do it then? Because you can set the bold direction, you can engage with all the stakeholders, but you have to start working in a very practical way. And there it becomes much more difficult and much more complex. And related to a tire, it becomes much more complex as well, I can assure you. But it's about, again, a Japanese concept is go and see and do it. Just do it. I heard German just saying about one day and then it doesn't go, you take the other day. It's like that. You do step by step. You can make incremental change or you can make transformational change. Both are possible with a model where you do it in a very practical way and not in a kind of boardroom and certainly not in a conference. And I wanted to elaborate a little bit on a case on the EU plastic strategy, a very important strategy. We all feel that is very important, but one of the sources of plastics in the ocean, one of the sources, and there is discussion how much it is, etc., is the particles that come from tires. 500,000 tons of tire and asphalt pieces go into nature every year in Europe. 500,000 tons, that's a big mass. And the Commission, of course, is looking at which part is coming in the oceans, in the river, which part is coming as sludge and used as fertilizer on rural life, etc. So very important problem. Should we legislate then, is then the question. Should we have better tires that less pieces fall off? You can imagine that the tire sector was a little bit worried about that and concerned about that. So what we did, we brought together different platforms, different sectors. We brought together the driving behavior type of associations like ADAC, the wastewater sector, the road sector, etc., to identify what is the issue, what are each of us trying to do, and what can we do together. Now, on the what, I'm not going to get into, it's not only the cause of the tire that there are particles. That was one of the main lessons. The details I can share at another moment, maybe. And we set a number of, a kind of almost roadmap of what you can do alone as a sector. Then there is only one little symbol, like here, or what can you do with different sectors together. I'm not going to go in the detail of it. And then we did all that work, there was a lot of trust, and then it stalled. Then, we should do, we would like to do Platform 2.0, make the action come true, and it stalls. Why does it stall? Who has to pay? That's the basic problem then. It's a little bit sad to say that story, but then it's very important that someone can stand up and say, because it's a dilemma of collective action. Is it the tire sector? Yes, we can do what we can do on the tire. Is it the road sector? Yes, we can do what we can do on the road. But they have to do things together. And then they start looking at each other, and the Commission is saying, we want to legislate, we want to legislate. That's not an optimal solution. How to overcome those, what I call a classical dilemma of collective action, is something where I think, and I'm going to stop almost, where it should be part of one of the policy instruments. Now, if we look at policy, in sustainability, of course, there are the hard and soft laws, legislation, and there is all the due diligence. And due diligence is coming up. In France you have it, in the UK you have it, in Germany is doing a lot of human rights due diligence. It will come to Europe as well. The question is, you always have to think with any policy measure or with any activity, what is the impact of it? Is due diligence the impact that the companies can tick off a box? Or is due diligence the impact of it that you identified where there is a problem and where you can work together to solve the problem? If there is a problem on the plantations of rubber, it's not good to say we will exclude that plantation. It doesn't help, especially not for the people working on that plantation. It's about how are we going to do this in Indonesia or Thailand, etc. And who is going to get involved? The tire maker said, yeah, but I just buy the rubber. The rubber maker says, oh, I don't have the power to do. The policy makers say, oh, we will do a nice development project. So bringing all that together is a necessary requirement for good policy. Public finance and sustainable investment, the Commission is putting a lot of effort on that, and of course that will be a real big driver if you have a good sustainable investment strategy that also is not about who are the good ones and who are the bad ones, but about who is transforming. Who is transforming his dirty industry into a better industry? There you should invest in, because otherwise it stays a little bit on the side. A third one, fair and transparent tax policies, both inside companies and in national government, is a very important driver for a Green Deal that is also an inclusive agenda. We did some work with CSR Europe on tax, and we made a blueprint on fair tax. And sometimes we noticed that the first time that the tax people of a company and the sustainability people of the company met was in our office in Brussels. So there is still a lot of work to do there, but also on the national government side, on fair and transparent tax if we want to reach that sustainable Europe that we want. And the fourth element that we see popping up maybe too much is the one on pledges. We don't believe so much in pledges. Pledges is maybe too much. We pledge that we will do that, and then no one follows up and no one follows through, but the event was there. So to conclude, yeah, I did that. To conclude, a leadership model and an engagement model, this is kind of the basic of the CSR Europe 2030 strategy that we developed with national parks like Forética. The first one is the first circle. The business transformation, what you can do as a company yourself is very important. The third one is advocacy, is all this dialogue with policymakers on having the right and smart policies that will create impact. But the second piece in the middle is the one that we want to strengthen further. Companies working together one by one in their value chain, in their supply chain, that's already happening. But one missing link we noticed in some work we did, the sector associations. What are the industry associations doing to drive sustainability practically? That will be our agenda for the coming year as well, or for the coming years as well. We will launch a Sustainable Industry Alliance that will push, or try to push, the sector associations, the chemical associations of Europe, or the electric association, or the pharmaceutical association. They can embrace that agenda with much more impact and create collaboration on the ground in their national associations, etc. And we will discuss soon with all our national partners what is their relationship with their sector associations. How can they drive that agenda? So leadership is those three elements, we think. And then I have to stop. I think, yeah, this is our wish towards the Commission, but that we will explain later. But the three elements I wanted to share: bold leadership, genuine and open dialogue, and make practical change platforms. We cannot do alone. Start working together. Like the example you gave on the Pact for Youth earlier and on the work you are doing, that was something that came out of work that we have been doing together. Then you can reach the scale that is necessary, because the urgency is there. And the tire should be one day become kind of example of a sustainable product, basically. Thank you very much.